Hey guys, it's Misha, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are diving into the long-awaited Joe Rogan Experience episode featuring Donald Trump. So we're going to be breaking down some of the highlights of the episode. It is about 3 hours long, and I think this crossover between Joe Rogan and Donald Trump is a smart move, especially because, he's trying to reach a younger audience. Joe Rogan has a young, mostly male audience, and we all know the kind of men that tend to vote for Kamala Harris. In fact, she has tried desperately to reach the male voters, preach this message that a real man would support Kamala Harris because she's a woman. Because she's a woman of color, as we know. Now, I think this relaxed conversational format allows Trump to connect with the viewers more personally, and I think he does best in this kind of setting, whereas Kamala, when is unscripted, we all know how that tends to go. I mean, even CNN at this point is admitting it, that she's a complete disaster.
Why is there any ideological perspective on this? Let's just fix the problem.
To fix the problem, you're doing this compromise bill. It does call for $650 million that was earmarked under Trump to actually still go to build the wall.
I am not afraid of good ideas where they occur.
So you don't think it's stupid anymore?
I think what he did and how he did it did not make much sense because he actually didn't do much of anything. I just talked about that wall, right? We just talked about it. He didn't actually do much of anything.
But you do want to build some wall.
I want to strengthen our border.
When she doesn't want to answer a question, her habit is to kind of go to word salad city, and she did that on a couple of answers.
You think she'd be prepared to do this by now. What's a mistake you've made? Nothing. What's a weakness you have? Nothing. What's the first law you want to pass? Nothing. What's a policy difference between you and Joe Biden? Nothing. Over and over and over. Empty, empty, empty.
So I believe Joe Rogan has said that she has not agreed to sit down, even though she was invited on his podcast. That would involve talking, and she knows that would push her out of her comfort zone.
It zicked right there.
Yeah. Okay, so he also shows his scar. But again, can you imagine if this happened to Biden? This would be on the news like 24/7. Twice Trump almost was murdered, and the media's treating it like he tripped. Where's that talk of that hateful rhetoric?
And the rhetoric is also that you're and that in order to stop you have to do whatever it takes.
That was okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this is, you're hearing this now. Kamala compared you to, said your love of Hitler yesterday.
She's the one throwing around these baseless accusations. Trump was already in office, okay? He's not a dictator. He's not literally like they say over and over and over again. Just because you say something again and again and keep repeating it does not make it true. And people who actually have common sense, people who do their own research and actually have critical thinking skills will realize that. But alas, not everyone can.
Kamala goes on 60 Minutes, gave an answer that a child wouldn't give. It was so bad. And they put another answer in.
They edited it deceptively.
Which didn't make sense either, but it was better. Well, it wasn't editing. It was fraud. This was not editing.
Because let's face it, when they don't, we all know what she sounds like.
The work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
They didn't fact check her. And
Not
one of the
at
most
all.
egregious examples of that was when she said that there are no troops right now deployed in war zones.
Yeah.
There's a very famous viral video that went online of troops in a war zone.
I'll play the video.
And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world. The first time this century. What? But let's understand.
So where the are we right now?
Yeah, that just shows she literally has zero idea about what's happening. But I guess the fact checkers were taking a nap or something. They only tend to wake up when it's Trump.
An actual real debate and not a propaganda exercise. If it's going to be a real debate, you have to fact check everybody. The morale that the police department has in a lot of these cities where they've done this defund the police,
Right.
it's the dumbest idea of all time.
She was a big part of defund the police. That was a big thing for her, defund the police.
Here they're criticizing the rising anti-police mentality that we're seeing, especially among Gen Z. And I recently watched the Jubilee video where there was one cop against how many, criminals. And it was a very interesting episode where he also made this point that they don't publicize the good deeds. They just tend to show some case of cruelty. And then the ACAB people run with that. The valuable work done by good officers is overlooked. And then we focus on the negative, even though obviously there are good cops, there are bad cops, but we need cops. Hello. Also in that episode, I think he talked about PTSD, everything the cops have to witness. And I'm glad that, they're talking about this because there are communities that strongly rely on law enforcement. And so these movements disregard that reality.
But she was to fund the police. She was all these transgender operations. If you wanted a sex change and you were in detention and you demanded a sex change, they would give you a sex change.
Well, the wildest one is this idea of giving free sex change to illegal immigrants.
That's right. In detention.
That is the wildest
But
thing.
she
Is that the biggest problem you have?
Yeah.
You just walked here from Guatemala. You need to become a girl?
But she was in favor of it.
Yes.
So she changed. She changed 15 policies.
But that's classic Kamala flip-flopping on issues. Constantly shifts her stance to appease whatever crowd she's talking to. I mean, it's so obvious. The transgender surgeries, I love how they also bring up, well, why do you care? It's such a small amount of people that, require these surgeries. Hello? If there is a man in prison who wants to go to the female prison, especially when we're talking about rapists and the fact that we've literally had cases like this happen already, and then they actually transfer them to the women's prison. It doesn't matter if it's happening to one person. That is insanity. When you're letting male criminals into women's spaces, they just have a lot to talk about. Like, they're trying to get so much into the interview. You can tell this kind of thing can go on for hours. And then when you watch anything with Kamala in it, it's like she's trying to remember.
What weaknesses do you bring to the table, and how do you plan to overcome them while you're in office?
That's a great question, Joe. Well, I am certainly not perfect, so let's start there. And I think that perhaps a weakness, some would say, but I actually think it's a strength, is I really do value having a team of very smart people around me who bring to my decision-making process different perspectives. My team will tell you, I am constantly saying, let's kick the tire on that. Let's kick the tires on it.
Girl, what the is you talking about?
You've been in the White House for 4 years. You were vice president, not the president. But why wasn't any of that done for the last 4 years?
Well, there was a lot that was done, but there's more to do, Anderson. And I'm pointing out things that need to be done, that haven't been done, but need to be done.
Anderson Cooper, a crazy softball interview. She took 2 days off and she studied all day long, and then she comes out with a result that was a real embarrassment. That was a really bad interview. She couldn't answer a question.
In fact, Kamala was recently caught. She went like this. She goes, live. It's live.
Flood. We really got to watch those areas and those communities. So it takes quite a while for that water to drain.
Thank you very much.
Covered her mouth and said it. Girl, everything just feels so fake and scripted with her. So I understand why she didn't go on Joe Rogan's podcast. I mean, I would love for her to do that. I would love to see an episode with Kamala. But my prediction would be a lot of awkward laughter. She worked at McDonald's, even though there's no proof that she worked in McDonald's, and that might very well be a lie, like many other things. I worked at McDonald's. I come from a middle-class family. I'm a woman. I'm black. So you should obviously vote for me.
Getting rid of income taxes and replacing it with tariffs.
Well, okay.
Were we serious about that?
Yeah, sure. But why not? Because ready? Our country was the richest relatively in the 1880s and 1890s. We will not allow the enemy to come in and take our jobs and take our factories and take our workers and take our families unless they pay a big price. And the big price is tariffs.
I guess in theory, that could definitely reduce the U.S. reliance on China, for example, which would be amazing. So that way we can encourage American consumers and businesses to buy American. But I'm sure Trump would face significant pushback because that's such a drastic change.
Gavin Newsom did when Xi Jinping came to San Francisco.
He cleaned it up.
He cleaned it up. He got rid of all the homeless people.
Isn't that terrible in a way to think, he cleaned it up and then it became a pigsty?
Well, people that live in that city that are impacted by these people just camping and needles and human feces. There's an app that you can buy. There's an app that you can get, that will show you where the human feces has been documented in San Francisco.
Oh, Don't get me started on San Francisco. Just parking the car to get to the hotel was like walking through a war zone, like a third world country. I have never seen anything like it in America. Human feces on the floor. They have an app like they're talking about here to locate where that is. And I saw it for myself, unfortunately. Urine, it smells like urine everywhere. There's trash all over the floor, but at least they have pride. They have pride, guys. Again, you will see the LGBTQ, the trans specifically, flags everywhere. And then right below that, rows of homeless people suffering from drug addiction. You've got like graffiti everywhere. Pop a cop, like on every street. But yeah, Gavin Newsom magically cleaned it up that one time. He cares more about him than the people, the actual Americans that live in the dystopian nightmare that is San Francisco. The constant signs that there are car break-ins there. And unfortunately, of course, you will find many liberal cities like this here. But San Francisco was the worst that I have visited personally. And the solutions, providing the injection sites to enable the addiction. Brilliant. Or ask the citizens, hey, can you take in some homeless into your apartment? Okay, but that's maybe for another video.
They sit there, they make a deal, they get $500,000, and they say, Trump's leading 51-49. They announce it. When you're down 17 points, people are going to stay home. They're not going to vote.
Right.
Because they're going to say, I love Trump, but I'm not going to waste my time. It's cold out.
You shouldn't rely on the polls for false comfort because you don't know if that's actually accurate. They could just be trying to demotivate the other side. Sometimes actually they'll say, what's the point of voting? The other side will cheat. Watch out for that. Go and vote. Go and vote.
Drug dealers, drug lords.
And that's just the ones that have been accounted for.
Correct. People from mental institutions.
What do you think the strategy is?
Hundreds of thousands of major criminals. Tougher and worse than anybody we have.
We're seeing the consequences of it in San Antonio. They've taken over apartment buildings. In Aurora, Colorado, they've taken over apartment buildings. These Venezuelan gangs.
Just the beginning.
Yeah.
Springfield, Ohio is this very nice community of 52,000 people that just had 32,000 migrants that don't speak the language dropped into their community. You can't get into a hospital. You can't get into a school. It's gone from a beautiful little place to a horror show.
And also, these kinds of failures by the Biden-Harris administration, that impacts communities far from the border itself. In general, strained resources, increased crime rate, and then people don't seem to care until it starts to affect them, until they personally see it.
Buying it because they want to buy it, because it's blue no matter who. There's a certain percentage of our population that's going to vote Democrat no matter what.
That's true.
So this vote blue no matter who mentality, I mean, that's a great idea if you don't like critical thinking or policy evaluation. Voting based solely on party loyalty, right? So that overlooks the candidate's qualifications. So no wonder why Kamala only focuses on her race, on her gender, because that's a great distraction for her. I'm a woman. I'm black. I eat that up. Yes, queen. We need a female president. We need a black female president.
Biggest accomplishment to date as vice president?
I don't know. So brat. Oh my god.
So brat.
So brat. Like.
Oh, but she's like brat. Like brat. Okay, great. Try to fill up your gas tank. Try to feed your family with nothing but your historic first identity politics crap. Good luck.
A voter ID?
Voter ID is the most bizarre argument that I've never seen anybody articulate in a way that's convincing.
Because
why
they
you
want
don't
to cheat.
need voter. Well, it doesn't make sense. Look at it from a position like, why would you not want people to have ID?
In some of the most basic transactions, buying a beer, renting a car, ID is required. But when it comes to one of the most important acts in a democracy, somehow that is too much to ask. I wonder why. What could be a possible reason for such a thing? That was great. I think this kind of crossover isn't just impactful, it's also refreshing. This kind of unfiltered style resonates with those who value transparency. And of course, Kamala the Chameleon, she sticks to her scripts for a reason. She tailors her message to each crowd as it benefits her. But we see the popularity of this interview and others like it. I think that shows that people aren't here for rehearsed sound bites or endless talk of identity politics. They're looking for something real, someone honest, and someone that can put our country and our people first. Or at least I am. You guys can let me know what you think in the comments below. Also remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.